Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, where you can awaken your mind to clarity and success even in today's life challenges. We're here to provide insights and solutions that will help you live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hello, everyone. This is Joanne Victoria with another amazing episode of the Sanity Project podcast. You are here to discover a life of clarity, confidence, sanity, and entrepreneurial success. And our guest today is the amazing Franziska Iseli. Franziska has written 4 books. They're on her website, and we'll talk more about that later. But right now, I'm going to tell you what she's done up to date. Franziska Iseli is a maverick entrepreneur, leading brand strategist, adventurer, author, and the co-founder of Basic Bananas, The Business Hood, Ocean Lovers, and Moments of Humanity. In 2013, Franziska was awarded the Young Entrepreneur of the Year award, recognizing her innovation, creativity, and philanthropic involvement. A true visionary and eternal optimist, no challenge seems to be too big for Franziska. She is known for her rebellious nature and doing things differently, which is what we love here on the Sanity Project podcast. She has this rare combination of being both creative and strategic, which makes her a powerful leader in the business world. A Swiss-born Australian, or Swaussie, with a sharp-witted humor and the ability to speak 5 languages, she is known to make up words, which keeps everyone amused. Welcome to the show, Franziska Iseli.
Thank you so much for having me, Joanna.
I am grateful that you are here. You're a very interesting person. Your website is amazing. We'll talk about that later. And tell us, how did you get to this place where you are Basic Bananas?
That's a very great question. And, reflecting back on my life, having, started out in Switzerland and when I was young, I always wanted to do something that makes an impact. So when I started studying in Geneva, I studied marketing and international politics, and I thought I'm going to work for the United Nations. And then, how sort of my life has always been quite just flow, sort of and this is already maybe quite an interesting sort of thought for our listeners here, I've always had sort of a bigger vision, but then the way to get there was never rigid. So I ended up on this path where I left Switzerland, I lived in Costa Rica, and then I worked for the Swiss embassy in South Africa, and then suddenly I ended up in Australia where I still am now. And funnily enough, even though I wanted to do some international aid work, I ended up working in advertising in Australia, which wasn't exactly a part of my plan. And I suddenly had this epiphany that I can make a positive impact through entrepreneurship. It doesn't have to be me being on the field somewhere doing impact work. I can actually do really good work and impact people through entrepreneurship. And that's how 11 years ago started Basic Bananas. And that was really just leveraging my knowledge of marketing and advertising and teaching small business owners how to market their businesses and help them do better. So that's how we sort of ended up running a company like Basic Bananas.
Well, what's interesting is that what you wanted to do on your own, you're now doing for multiple people so
Exactly.
that your message is spread out even further, which is really where it's at. You'll make a greater impact that way.
Absolutely. And it is those ripple effects. It's also inspiring other business owners to do good too, because one of my personal sort of goals, visions is for every business owner in the world. I know it's an ambitious goal and we might not get there in my lifetime, but I would love for every business in the world to at least adopt one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So to do something good. It doesn't have to be one of these specific goals, but at least for every business in the world to do something good. It doesn't have to be even on a big scale, but whether that is to donate resources or skills, just do something good or be more sustainable, don't use plastics, things like that.
Well, I think that makes a great deal of sense, and I'm sure our audience appreciates it because I know I do, because it really, it's just so generous that you are making this statement, dealing with the entrepreneurs and business owners that you're dealing with, and then just saying, try one, just do one of these things, because then again, your ripple effect goes even further.
Exactly. And it's very attainable. It's not, it's not something that you go, oh, that's too difficult. It's very attainable for every business to just do something a little bit better.
Where can people find the U.S. Sustainable Goals, the UN?
Yeah, so if they just put into Google UN, United Nations, Sustainable Development Goals, they will come up. And a few years ago, before pandemic, I was in New York, actually at the UN, working with a bunch of entrepreneurs, discussing how we can adopt these goals more into our businesses, into our individual businesses. And yeah, it's really, I find it's a really great place to start because different people have different passions. So I'm very passionate about ocean conservation. So for me, it's very obvious that we will definitely support ocean causes and running beach cleanups and reducing plastics. But someone else might not care about the ocean, but they might care about equality, or they might care about food safety or hygiene or any of the other goals that might resonate with someone. So it's a really great place to get inspired.
It sounds amazing. I've never heard of that before, and I always like to hear new things on the podcast because
you love it.
The people who are listening will enjoy it as well, and then they give them more purpose. It just
Absolutely.
gives them. I mean, you can't just have a business for the sake of having a business. It has to have more meaning in the world, with not only with yourself and your employees, but how you affect the universe, how you affect everyone else.
Yeah, you'll just run a better business. I feel like, there are people that don't care too much about what's going on in the world, and that's okay. But I do feel like when you do care a little bit, not only will it possibly motivate you a bit more, but also you will attract better talent, especially right now in this world we live in now, where we have access to such a huge talent pool with the new way of working, people working from home, people working from anywhere. As business owners, we can really hire anyone from anywhere, basically the best person in the world. And these best people, they will most likely choose companies that have a bit of a bigger purpose.
I agree with you. I'm totally aligned with what you're doing. And I think that a lot of your information is also shown in the 4 books that you've written. And one that I'm was fond of, Brand Strategy, is how to be seen in a crowded market. I think that, what are the latest market trends? I know everybody's always looking for the right way to do something, but, some things fade away, some things come back and are repurposed. And what do you suggest people should do now who want to be better branded and want to be more obvious in the marketplace?
Yeah, and thanks for asking this question, because that is also my favorite out of, the 4 books. They're all great. My favorite topic, and I feel like one of the most important ones, other than the courage map, but that was not only business related, is definitely branding and understanding the power of branding. And here's why. Because of what we're going through, more and more people are starting their own businesses. Micro businesses. They're doing different things. Some people opt for, a little bit of I don't want to, talk bad about this, but a little bit of more cop-out businesses where they sort of look for the magic pill, and they might, buy into some Amazon program where they then find the product in China. They don't even know, if it's made ethically or, who is making this, but let's say it's a cheap toilet brush. And
right.
They go and sell it on Amazon and think that, that is going to make them rich. And without any brand strategy, it's just the only purpose of that kind of a business is to make money. And I really, after 11 years of working with business owners, I've really found that strategy just generally backfires when it's just purely about making money, not caring about what kind of product it is and where it comes from and who is suffering making the product. It just usually doesn't really work that well. So the reason why, and coming back to branding, why branding is so important is because I really highly recommend for people starting businesses or running established businesses to build a great brand, to build a brand that people want to be a part of. And that's where brand strategy comes in. And we can talk a little bit about maybe the different components of a brand strategy. It's just about, I'd love for the listeners to really consider not skipping the branding piece and to invest in building something that they are proud of, something that resonates with them, and something that is not just a slap on thing just for the sake of running a business.
I agree with you. I think people skip a major part of the branding process because they think that if they have some presence on social media, that's sufficient. And it's not, because number one, if you have presence, you have to work it. You can't just leave it hanging out there. So something has to happen. But how are you working it? How are you talking about who you are and what you're doing?
Yeah.
And how are you attracting people who want to be a part of your business? Because that's what customers are all about. So,
exactly.
I think it would be beneficial if you would come up with a few steps that people need to know as to why they need to build a great brand.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great point that you're making. And also, you have to mean it. If you publish stuff on social media just for the sake of it, it's not going to give you a good following. You actually have to believe in it and you have to mean it. And funnily enough, we have an intern. We always get interns that apply. They want to come and work for our business. At the moment, unfortunately, they can't come into our headquarters because we are in lockdown again here in Sydney.
I saw, yes.
Yeah. Oh, tell me about it. And so I was just talking to one of the interns yesterday because she wanted to do some social media content for our branding agency, The Businesshood. It's a different company. And her content was just very much that sort of Band-Aid solution. It was a picture and one sentence just for the sake of it. So obviously she's learning and that's what she wanted to hear. I said, the thing with anything we publish, whether that is social content or any other content, video, anywhere, articles, we want to add value. So I said, I'd like you to think in terms of not just publishing a pretty picture with one sentence, but adding more value with what we teach. So when it comes to coming up with a brand strategy, I definitely always would say, I'll give a few of the ingredients now, we can discuss them. I would always definitely start with the purpose of the business. So what is the purpose of the business? It can't be just about making money. What is the bigger purpose? And as entrepreneurs, what we do, and this is what's so exciting for me, is our job is to solve problems. As entrepreneurs, all we do is we solve problems, basically. We solve people's problems through a product or a service. So what problems are you solving with your business? How are you helping people? What is that purpose? Number one. Number two, and I think the listeners have heard this many times, so we won't go too much into it, but also have clarity on the values that your company has. What are some of the values that you stand by, that you believe in, things that you don't compromise on? Maybe one of your values is sustainability. There are so many great businesses. I was just talking about how there are a lot of Amazon businesses that don't care about sustainability. On the other hand, there are so many great brands out there now, startups that really care. I've seen so many lately that say we don't use any plastics in our packaging. I've ordered a few products, from different companies, whether that is skincare or tea or anything like that. And a lot of new companies that like to support startups, they send their stuff without any plastic in it. And it's just that's cool. That's one of their values, is sustainability. Someone else might say one of my values, and this is one of our ones at Basic Plans, is playfulness. So anything we publish and the way that we work, we always have a little bit of a playful angle to it to make it more enjoyable. So those are number two, are your values. Number three is think about your brand identity. So think about, if you look at your business, how would you like this brand to be perceived? What is your brand identity? And you really can just, the most simplest way to do this is, imagine if your business was a person, how would you describe him or her? What characteristics would you use? Do you want to be seen as courageous, as modern, or more conservative, innovative? What are some of the characteristics? And that's then becoming your brand identity, and that's where the whole visual aspect then also comes from. And then number 4 is look at your differentiation. And most companies have competitors. In fact, I personally, thus far, we've launched a few different companies. I've only ever launched companies in a space where I know there are competitors. And that's one of my strategies, because I know if there are competitors, I know that there's a market. Right. And I know that all we need to do is do it better. And that's actually the Richard Branson strategy. So Richard Branson, usually his strategy has been to go into industries that are not doing a very good job in terms of especially customer experience. Mm-hmm. And he goes in and he just nails it. So if you go into a crowded market, you need to differentiate somehow. So you need to think about what makes you different. What are maybe some frustrations people have in that industry that you could solve with your business? So that's number 4. And I would start with those 4 things when it comes to thinking about your brand strategy.
So those are all great. I especially like the one where you view your business as a human person, mm-hmm. and what characteristics does that person have? Because I don't think too many people use that as a concept.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so powerful, because once you have that identity established, if you want to go one step deeper, let's say you want to be seen as innovative, your company is in that space, is the innovator, then you want to look at this is a bit more advanced here, but I think your audience is advanced. You want to look at all the touch points you have. So let's say your social channels, your website, your email signature, if you have possibly premises, your proposals, your invoices, and you want to amplify and magnify that identity. So if you want to be seen as innovative, think about, okay, how can I have a website that is a little bit more innovative than anyone else? How can I add a little bit of innovation into my packaging or into my email signature or in my proposals? And that's then also part of what differentiates you.
I think that's amazing. And you very slyly or gently threw in Richard Branson's name there. Mm-hmm. And how did you get him to write the acknowledgement for one of your books?
Oh my God. So Richard Branson, from day 0 when I started my company, the first company, Basic Bananas, about 11 years ago, his one of his books, might have been one of his first ones, Losing My Virginity.
Yes.
That was the book that was sort of published around that time. And I was reading that at the beginning of my career as an entrepreneur. I had no idea how to run a business at that time. I was working in advertising, not running my own business. I was doing strategy for other businesses, marketing strategy. And that book really inspired me. And I thought, and I knew nothing about Richard Branson before that time. So I started to read his book and I'm like, wow, this is my type of mentor. This guy is exactly how I see the world, and the way he does it in his own way. And you know, I just found his philosophy and his courage very amazing. And so that happened and I felt inspired. And then when I started writing that book, that was the 3rd book, and that was 3 years ago, my editor said, who is going to write the foreword? And I said, Richard Branson.
Because, there we go.
I put it on the first page of the book. I said, foreword by Richard Branson. And then my editor, when she got the book, she said, so, like, what's that about? Have you got Richard Branson's foreword? It's pretty much impossible. I said, not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
But he will write it. And I said, he doesn't know yet that he will write it, but he will write it. And she was like, just, you know, being nice. She's like, oh, you know, if it doesn't work out, I'll have some other people we could ask. I'm like, no, don't worry. We'll get Richard Branson. And then a few weeks later, I actually got invited to go to Necker Island for, it was like an innovation sort of summit with a bunch of my friends. And it wasn't the perfect time for me to fly to Necker Island. I was quite busy here in Australia. It's like 4 flights and 36 hours of travel. Right. But I thought, you know what? I need to go. If I want to have any chance of him to say yes, to writing a foreword, he would be asked by so many people, I got to go. So I went to Necker Island. I met Richard. We were there for almost a week, and he was, there every now and then for dinners and breakfasts and things, and just having chats. And then on the last day, he was sitting there, and I'm like, I don't want to be, one of these annoying fangirls, but I just have to ask him. So I sat down next to him and I said, hey, Richard, I've written this book, and I was wondering if you would be interested in writing a foreword. And before that, I've obviously, how you get things is not just by asking for things, but by giving. And, I've helped with some of the impact projects that he's working on, and really, giving more than getting.
Right.
And he said to me, he didn't say yes and he didn't say no. And I thought, yeah, he's not going to do it. He said, can you send me your manuscript and I'll take a look and then I'll let you know. So I did that, emailed him the manuscript, and about a month passed and I suddenly have an email in my inbox from Richard saying, I would gladly do the foreword. Just give me a few more weeks. A few more weeks passed and suddenly I had a foreword in my inbox. And you know what? The funniest thing is, and this is how the universe works, coincidences or however we call them. I was sitting at Sydney Airport here in the Virgin Lounge when I got his email with the foreword in it.
Oh, see?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does work. How amazing.
It does. Mm-hmm.
How amazing. That's just incredible. And you did that. And we're not only, bragging here. I'm going to brag for you that you got Richard Branson to write the foreword to your third book, but we're also saying that anything is possible. You had
Absolutely.
You had this intention that was clear that Richard Branson was writing the foreword to your book. I don't know how many people you told. I don't know how many people didn't even buy it. I'm sure people close to you believed you. And yet your editor or publisher, whatever, goes, we'll see, whatever.
Yeah. And exactly. And I didn't tell anyone that he's going to write the foreword. It was just on the first page and I knew it. I feel like sometimes this is my personal take on life. I sort of just, this is how I live a little bit. I just do, okay, this is what's happening. I know it in my mind. And almost sometimes on purpose, I don't tell people about things. Right. Almost, I think, to protect myself from their
the thing of it
thinking.
is, when you have ideas like that, not you, when anyone who's listening has ideas like that, don't tell anyone, because it's not something that should be, thrown out there with the trash. This is special. This is a special request to a special group of people flying high in some universe, outer space, as opposed to 55 miles from Earth. I still have issues about that. But, my son says, Mother, 55 miles is good enough. And a lot of other people have gone 55 up to 55 miles and they got their medals too. But anyway, you keep it to yourself because it's your agreement with God. In my opinion, it's your agreement with all the gods. Pick a bunch. I don't really care. And your deal with them is that this is what you want. You put it out there and they give it to you. But if you dilute it, I think it gets diluted when you DILUTED, not DELUDED. It gets diluted when you tell others. It's like, then it has the opportunity to fail because then people start chipping into your mind and going, oh, you're not going to let it. That's not going to happen. And then your intention gets fractured. Could get fractured.
I think it's a little bit also about, and you may have, you've done so much research on so many different topics. You know how some people are intrinsically motivated and some people are extrinsically motivated. And usually the extrinsically motivated, I don't even know if that's the right word. That's the right word, right? Extrinsically. Is that the right word?
It's right for me.
Yeah, I think that is the English word. Sometimes I mix up words a little bit in English.
Doesn't matter.
Often extrinsically motivated people, they need the outside validation. So they need to go and have 10 friends to say, yeah, you got this. No, you got this. You got this. And that's cool. Intrinsically motivated people, I'm intrinsically motivated. We don't need or want that. We just know inside ourselves that I got this. I don't need to tell anyone that I got this. I know I got this. And it's not, I don't need validation from anyone if you're intrinsically motivated. But then for other people, I have lots of friends that they would need to have 5, 10 friends, one friend to tell them every day, hey, you got this, you can do it, go get it, go to Necker Island. And that's their way of being. It's just, different ways of being wired. I would actually, I would be curious to know how, as kids, how do we end up one or the other? I actually don't know. You might know. Is it something that the parents do, or are we born with it? Or I don't actually know.
I think it's like anything else that we learn. Most of it comes from the stories from our family, and we react that particular way. I had a guest earlier today from Paris who deals in conscious divorce. And it was very interesting because she had a beautiful take on it, and we'll all find out when that particular podcast is published. But, it's all about trusting and loving yourself. And we don't get that much when we're children, from our story. Our story is the same as family, is the same as, stories, just passed down through generations, because it doesn't, it started who knows how many generations ago. And we believe that. We believe that unless we have a team of people approving of what we do, and I would never want anybody else's approval, because I don't need anybody else's approval. Neither do you. You don't either. No. It's like, I don't need you to tell me that I'm doing the right thing. I am.
Exactly.
I am. Yeah. It's the same thing when I was starting this podcast over 200 episodes ago. People thought I was crazy, and they gave me all this list of reasons. And then I stopped talking about it. I didn't talk about it to too many, because I know how people react. You just do it.
Absolutely.
You just do it. And that's what you did. And you had your opportunity made available to you. The powers that be said, let's just send her to meet Richard and see how that goes. So she travels on 4 airplanes and 5 timelines, and winds up in the same room with Richard Branson. And there it goes.
Exactly.
And I think And I think that's a part of what he has going for him as well. I've admired him for about the last 20 years. And I just thought, God, I would like to be like that. This creative, nice, kind, caring human being. At least that's what I see, in him. Yeah. And, I just, he's just successful without hurting people, not intentionally at any rate. And it's just wonderful. And then here you had the opportunity. You just said, forward by Richard Branson. And then everybody that needed to read that saw that.
Exactly. Yeah. Taking chances.
So how do our listeners find you, Franziska?
So for anyone who runs a business, I would suggest you check out Basic Bananas. That's where we have a lot of resources. We also have a podcast for business owners all about marketing and branding. So basicbananas.com. And otherwise, if you want to find me personally, I've also got my personal website and my social channels, which is Franziska Iseli, Franz for zebra, ISKAISELI.com. And those are really the 2 best places. But I reckon for any business owner, Basic Bananas has the most resources for you.
Quite a few, the people who are listening to this. And Basic Bananas is just filled with information and opportunities and so on. And I was going to say something else. Oh, yes. Everything is going to be on my website, because Franziska will be having a page on my website for those of you who are listening with, things in your ears and running down the block or riding a bicycle. And also, please listen to this podcast again, because I know you have missed things. Get a pad, get a pen, and write. Don't use your computer. If you want to do that secondly, not primarily. And share this podcast with your friends. Share this. If you have your own business, share it with your teams. If you don't have your own business, share it with your close friends who are going to be part of your team. And find out from United Nations Sustainable Goals. Go there and find out the information there. Is there anything you would like to say finally to our audience, Franziska?
No, other than take your chances. I really think that is a really big message here, is go and take a chance on whatever you want to take a chance on, whether that is in business or relationships, personal life, with your kids, anything.
Take a chance, people. Get out there. You heard her. Thank you for being here today, Franziska Iseli, and we'll talk soon.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com to listen to more podcasts. Check out Joanne's coaching programs and get a free copy of her report, 5 Steps to Achieve Life-Work Harmony. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.